Yo, what up? This is your boy Solo, and now we're back here again with another episode. And this is going to be about the food that you eat affects your overall health. That includes your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health. And I'm going to start off by saying, when we see animals eating other animals, they don't eat animals for the protein. They just eat animals to survive, because that's part of their natural habitat and food chain. You know how everything is set up, just things deriving from the water, the earth, as I should say, just so I can make things sense for people who don't understand how spirituality works. But there are certain organisms and spiritual races that accumulate and follow each other over time, and based on the location that they are brought up in, that's what they will be, based on just evolving and just spiritually navigating the way they are. And I'm gonna just leave it at that. Just I don't want to go too deep for that, but animals eat animals because it is what it is, and that's just part of their natural food chain. So when we see humans bragging about eating meat and gaining protein and things of that nature, and just trying to make fun of vegans or plant-based eaters, this is not coming from a natural mental spiritual space, because we don't see animals doing that. Animals just gotta survive, and humans do, to a certain degree, were evolved from animals, and most humans still are under that animalistic trait. And the thing is, there is no right or wrong in how you go about it, but as a human, you're supposed to look at how nature is evolving and how humans are becoming smarter than animals. So animals eat each other because they're animals, and they're evolving, and it's going to get to a point where they're going to become more intelligent, and that'll take a while for that to be, and eventually become human. Or when we see monkeys, some monkeys eat each other, carnivores. What's that shit called? Cannibalism? Yeah, that's what it is. So, but at the same time, we also see monkeys and gorillas eating plants and fruits, and we call that omnivorous. Or when we see humans in today's society, we see different types of humans. We see humans that eat meat, we see humans that are omnivores, we see humans in a keto diet, whatever. We see humans who are vegans, and frugivores, people that eat only fruits. And that's the space that I want to be in, because that's the space, that's the diet that I benefit the most when it comes to health and intelligence. And I used to be I used to eat meat. I wasn't born vegan, so my health is the most optimized when I eat fruits and when I fast, and not caring about my biased opinion about what I think is better. So when we see eat meaters in today's society, they're compared to plant-based eaters and vegans, people who eat fruits. You can tell that their awareness is not on par with people who are more natural and gravitating towards more of plant-based diet. And we cannot ignore the fact that people who eat too much meat are more animalistic. They're more easily to get, into their emotions or angered, because that's all they eat. They're not eating for intelligence. They're just eating for what they think feels good for them, or what they think feels like is giving them strength. And the thing is, you're not a lion. You don't have teeth like a lion. You don't have teeth like a carnivore. You have little ass canines, but you're not a carnivore. So to an extent, some humans can eat meat, but we're evolved to a point where we should be eating more based on plants, fruits, which gives us intelligence. When you see an eat meter, they're not intelligent. They just want to brag about however they're gaining their protein, or I don't know what the thing is with meat eaters, or how they work in the mind, but I was never like that when I was a meat eater. It's just retarded. But I get it. The meat tastes good. It's seasoned with plants. What you're trying to make fun of, because you won't eat your meat if it's not seasoned with plants. But then again, there's a lot of weird people who just eat raw meat in the world, which you can clearly see they look sick in the mind. And I don't know why they're trying to do that. You can just clearly season your meat with plants and at least enjoy yourself with that. But we see these type of people, I guess they're trying to prove a point, but who'd even want to see things like that on the internet? But you can tell which parties are more healthy than the other, who can articulate better words than the other party. And when we see vegans and plant-based eaters, they are more intelligent, they are more healthy, they are more they have a better chance to be more successful in however they choose to experience life. But that's not just to say there's a lot of retarded vegans out there that make bad decisions when they're trying to, I wouldn't want to say retarded, but everybody's retarded. But we're all retarded to a certain degree. But there's a lot of retarded people. And I forgot my point. When we see vegans trying to transition into the lifestyle when they're just starting, they might not have all the solutions, and they might have all the information, and they're just getting in, and sometimes that's just how it has to be. You have to try out new things. You have to try out, it's all about trials and tribulations and what works for you. But it's just up to you how to gain the information and take care of yourself. How do you move based on survival? We live in a system where everything is trying to destroy us, and poisoning our food, and we have to try our best how to navigate through that. And I can understand that there's a lot of plant-based options that are expensive, just based on how demand is, I guess, or I'm not sure how to think about that. But yeah, so when it comes to getting into that field, you have to do more research and look at other people's viewpoints. The thing is with me, I like to, when I was starting my vegan journey, my plant-based journey, I would go on to YouTube and research what are the benefits of this and that, and look at the comments, look how much likes it has, and that will tell you itself that there's truth in it and there's benefits in it. There's a lot of confirmation of knowing that certain things will be of healing, and it can cure diseases and sickness just by eating fruits and fasting. And if you just do your research, you can see how many people are into it, how many people like it, how many people are sharing it, how many people are commenting on it. Yes, it works. Yes, this and that. And that's all the proof you need. And it's all up to you to jump in and just try it. Because we all know they're putting stuff in the food, they're putting chemicals in the meat, and when I was a meat eater, that shit, it was good, I didn't think nothing was wrong with me. But, things happen, we see how people are in this society, why so much sickness is happening, and diseases, and, people just get sick and, they get high cholesterol, cancer, diabetes. People consume too much sugar, and fruits don't have sugar. If you're thinking about that, because things that come from nature does not kill you like that, especially if it grows from trees and it's supposed to be handpicked. And if it did give so much diabetes, we will see monkeys and gorillas dying from diabetes, but they don't. So fruits do not have sugar. How processed sugar is implemented into the GMO food that we eat in in society in general. So I think that's all I have for this topic. But eating more plant-based and fruits give you a more healthier benefit and a more broader awareness of life. You feel good. You won't feel as bad as eating junk food. People who eat junk food, people who are just in for the taste, you can see there's a dark aura around them. You can see that they're pale. You can see, and I'm not just trying to make fun of them, but that's just the truth. You can see that their spirit is like dimmed. It's like really dim. It's not vibrant as a fruit eater or plant-based eater. And that's just the truth. People who eat too much garbage, too much oils, too much acidic food, whatever it is, chopped cheese, crabs, soda, you can see their spirit is dim. But I'm not here to judge. I'm just trying to say the truth. And these are the type of people who are more, easily to get on their nerves, more easily to piss off, more easily, they're not truly aligned with themselves how, you should be, because you're supposed to look at it this way. You're just a spirit picking and choosing what you want to interact with and what you're trying to experience with. You shouldn't be mad when someone tells you, oh, you shouldn't eat that because it's bad for you, because you're just a spirit picking an option. You don't have to pick the option. It makes you mad because you can't have it. That's childish, because at the end of the day, that's just a feeling that you can escape from, or a mentality that you can just escape from. So, and that goes with anything, not just food in general. But yeah, that's pretty much it, and I'll leave it at that. I have new music coming in, a new instrumental project, more collabs on the way, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Peace.